There are moments in your life that define everything that comes after. A night out with friends, a news report on a new disease. But for us, for me, it was the silence. The moment the city went quiet, that's when we knew the real nightmare had begun. The virus they couldn't stop twisted them into something monstrous. Feral, strong, they became the hunters. Their movements are swift and silent, and that is their greatest weapon. The constant, unnerving quiet of the city is now their greatest ally. In this new world, we are the only prey, but we are not helpless. We are the ones who survived. We are the immediate, and we're not just running, we're fighting back. This is our world, and we're taking it back, one bloody step at a time. The end didn't kill us. It just showed us what we're made of. This isn't the end. This is the year of the silent.
And so it begins. Chapter 1. The Defense and Decompression. It was a long, draining afternoon for me and my friends. We had just finished a grueling 30-minute presentation defending our case study on the dangers of post-transient ischemic attack, TIA, and the effects of flu viruses on cardiac patients. The three panelists were thorough and strict. One, in particular, had given me a hard time, challenging every detail of my defense. The intense scrutiny left me feeling drained and frustrated. Beside me, my girlfriend, Rhian, tried to calm me down. Her presence was a soothing comfort, and she wrapped her arms around me in a tight, calming hug. As she did, I let myself drown in her cleavage and the sweet scent of her perfume. She caressed my face with her perky, big, soft breasts, a tender and intimate gesture meant to draw my focus away from the lingering tension. "It's okay, Joe. You don't need to fight it," she whispered, her voice a soft, gentle melody. "You did great. Just let it go." I leaned into her embrace, the lingering tension in my shoulders slowly starting to fade. Just as I was beginning to relax, Herbert, one of my classmates, walked over. "Hey, Joseph," he said, catching my eye with a dirty grin and a subtle thumbs up. The gesture was a private joke, a nod to our shared frustration with the strict panelist. I managed a weak smile in return, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. The afternoon may have been over, but the memories of the intense defense still lingered. After we were finally dismissed, the tension in the air evaporated. One of the guys suggested we grab lunch. My stomach immediately rumbled in agreement. As we gathered our things, my mind was already on our professor, Rhian Bouvier. He wasn't just smart, he was a strategic and intellectual person who commanded respect. It felt like a perfect idea to invite him. "Professor Bouvier," I said, my voice a little hesitant, "the defense is finally over. We were thinking of celebrating with some unlimited chicken wings at Wing Admiral. They serve the most wicked buffalo wings in town. Would you care to join us for lunch?" He looked up from his desk, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Wing Admiral, you say? I've heard good things about their buffalo wings," he replied, a small smile playing on his lips. "I would be delighted to join you. It's important to decompress after such an intense session. Let's go." A wave of relief and excitement washed over me. I knew this would be a great way to celebrate our hard-earned victory over the strict panelists. Chapter 2. The Feast and the Bomb. The four of us, myself, Rhian, Herbert, and Professor Bouvier, left the school and headed towards Wing Admiral. It was a good 10-minute walk, but the time passed quickly as we got into a rhythm of random chatter. The stress of the panel discussion still hung over us, and we all took turns venting about how thorough and strict the panelists were, and how their questions were designed to be difficult. We shared our personal struggles and frustrations, creating a sense of camaraderie that bonded us even further. As we stepped into Wing Admiral, the scent of fried chicken and a dozen different sauces hit us, and any lingering stress from the defense faded away. Herbert turned to me, his eyes gleaming with a mischievous spark. "I'm getting one of every single flavor," he announced, a bold declaration that perfectly matched the celebratory mood. Professor Bouvier, overhearing the plan, got a spark of excitement in his own eyes. "That's a fantastic idea. This calls for a bigger celebration. Let's invite a few more of your classmates." A ripple of agreement went through our group. This wasn't just lunch anymore. It was turning into a party. Rhian immediately pulled out her phone and sent a mass text to our friends, inviting them to join the feast. The atmosphere shifted from relaxed to genuinely excited, the promise of good food and good company a welcome relief after a grueling day. As we all got in line to order, I reached for Rhian's hand. My fingers slowly intertwined with hers, a soft, deliberate touch that conveyed all the gratitude words couldn't. I was so thankful she had been there with me, a calm presence in the storm of the defense. Leaning in close, my breath brushing gently against her ear, I whispered, "Thank you." A genuine smile of relief spread across my face as I watched her own eyes soften in response. In that moment, surrounded by the promise of good food and great company, all the stress of the day seemed to melt away. The moment our food was served, a hush fell over our table. We had a little bit of everything, from classic buffalo to garlic parmesan to a dangerously spicy lava flavor that Herbert swore he could handle. I picked up a wing, the hot sauce glistening under the restaurant lights. Just as I was about to take that first, satisfying bite, a loud, jarring sound from the TV above the counter cut through the celebratory atmosphere. It was the breaking news alarm, the one that always signaled something major. My attention, along with everyone else's, snapped to the screen. The broadcast showed a familiar face, the health secretary, his expression grim. The news ticker above the counter lit up with a single, jarring headline, "First confirmed case of coronavirus in the Philippines." The words hit us like a physical blow. The festive mood in the restaurant was instantly replaced with a tense, unsettling silence. The reporter continued, detailing the facts that would soon become all too familiar. A 38-year-old Chinese woman who had traveled from Wuhan, the outbreak's epicenter, and arrived in Manila on January 21, 2020. She had reportedly traveled via Hong Kong and had since been isolated. The Department of Health confirmed that officials were already working to trace her contacts and the places she had been. As the broadcast continued, the reporter listed the virus's symptoms: fever, coughing, and difficulty breathing. My wing, now forgotten in my hand, felt suddenly heavy and unappetizing. The world we knew, the one where a case study on teas was our biggest worry, felt like it was crumbling. The distant fear we had talked about months ago, the one about a mysterious new respiratory illness, was no longer distant. It was here, in our country, a stone's throw from where we sat. I looked at Professor Bouvier, whose usually calm, intellectual expression had hardened into something grim and serious. This wasn't just a news story anymore, it was a crisis, and we were standing on the very edge of it. A small smirk on my face, but deep inside, I was scared as hell. As the reality of the news report sunk in, an uneasy quiet fell over the table. Professor Bouvier cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "This is not just a health issue," he said, his voice grave. "This is an unprecedented global event. The ramifications will be far-reaching, affecting every aspect of society." Herbert chimed in, his usual grin replaced by a thoughtful frown. "So, what are we looking at? Pandemonium? Martial law?" The professor shook his head slowly. At first, a response, but as the virus spreads, a shift to survival. "We will see the true face of humanity, for better or worse." As they talked, I zoned out, my eyes fixed on the window. The sun was beginning its descent, casting a warm, orange glow across the parking lot and the empty street beyond. I lost myself in the thought of those empty streets, of weeds growing on the highways, and the strange, horrifying fantasy of a world where my virtual survival skills might actually matter. A soft whisper broke my trance. "Joe." I turned to see Rhian looking at me, her eyes filled with a soft concern. "Come on," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Let's go, I want to play with you." My heart jumped a little, my mind immediately racing to my game collection. Rhian was incredibly smart, a bit of a competitive streak that could border on toxic, but she was a gamer just like me. My gaze flickered to my watch, it was already late. I knew what she meant. I'd recently bought a new horror game, and she'd been begging me to play it. A horror game in the middle of a looming pandemic? I could think of nothing more fitting. Chapter 3. The Game and the Growing Dread. "Okay," I whispered back to Rhian. "Let's go, but give me a few more minutes." As we stood up, saying our goodbyes to the others, I caught a glimpse of Herbert and Professor Bouvier. They were both looking at me with the same dirty grin, and in a perfect, synchronized motion, they each gave me a knowing thumbs up. The gesture sent a jolt of embarrassment and a little bit of pride through me. It was a silent acknowledgement of my plans for the evening, a shared laugh between men. Rhian and I took off, heading straight to my place. The walk was quiet, a stark contrast to the chatter on the way to the restaurant. As soon as we got inside, I went straight for my PC, setting up my rig for Rhian. My brain was a chaotic mess of thoughts and anxieties, and my body felt heavy with exhaustion. I knew I wouldn't be able to stay awake for long. As Rhian got comfortable in my gaming chair, I collapsed onto my bed, already on the verge of dozing off. My mind, however, refused to shut down. All I could think about was the case study and the brutal questioning from the panel, especially Professor Gonzaga. Her questions were like verbal jabs, precise and relentless. But even that stress was quickly overshadowed by the breaking news. While the rest of the world was still processing the initial report, my mind was already racing ahead. I was already picturing a total lockdown, empty streets, and a new reality that felt both terrifying and strangely familiar. I had a feeling this was just the beginning. I closed my eyes, the weight of a world on the brink of collapse finally pulling me into a restless sleep. Chapter 4. An Intimate Sanctuary. The weight of a world on the brink of collapse finally pulled me into a restless sleep. My mind was a chaotic mess, haunted by the brutal questioning of Professor Gonzaga and the grim prognosis from the news. But as I teetered on the edge of consciousness, a gentle, soft, and warm touch began to brush against my leg, slowly moving up towards my thigh. I let myself sink into the sensation, a comforting anchor in the storm raging in my head. Then, a warm hand, far more intentional than a simple touch, began to caress me. My eyes fluttered open. The room was dark save for the faint glow of the streetlights outside. And then I saw her. Rhian, with nothing on but a sexy red and black lingerie set, was crawling toward me on the bed. My gaming PC remained untouched, its monitors dark. In that moment, the true meaning of the thumbs up and dirty grins from Herbert and Professor Bouvier hit me like a revelation. This wasn't about a horror game. It was a different kind of release entirely. The panic from the outside world faded, replaced by the intimate reality of the moment. She leaned in, her lips finding mine in a tender kiss. The scent of her perfume mingled with the clean, fresh smell of her skin, a familiar and intoxicating blend. Her hand never stopped its gentle, rhythmic movement. As the kiss deepened, I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close, the fear and exhaustion of the day giving way to a different kind of surrender. For a while, the world outside, with its looming pandemic and mounting anxieties, ceased to exist. All that mattered was the two of us, finding a brief, beautiful moment of peace in the quiet glow of my room. She stood before me, her eyes smoldering with quiet intent, fingers grazing the edge of my shirt. One by one she undressed me, slowly, deliberately, her touch lingering on my skin like a whisper. The air between us thickened with anticipation as her lips began their descent, planting soft, lingering kisses across my chest, each one igniting a trail of warmth that pulsed beneath my skin. I closed my eyes, surrendering to her rhythm, to the way she moved with purpose and grace. She crawled lower, her breath brushing against me, her lips now tracing the contours of my abdomen with reverent care. Every kiss was a promise, every touch a silent declaration of desire. Then I felt her warm wet, and impossibly tender, her lips enveloping me with a slow, deliberate hunger. She drew me in, her mouth working with a sensual intensity that made my breath hitch and my body arch toward her. Her rhythm deepened, her movements fluid and intoxicating, as if she were tasting every ounce of me with devotion. Her hands cradled me gently, caressing the sensitive skin with a lover's reverence, her fingers dancing over me like silk. The sensation was overwhelming, pleasure wrapped in intimacy, lust laced with love. I felt myself unraveling beneath her, every nerve alive, every thought eclipsed by the sheer ecstasy of her touch. It wasn't just physical, it was soulful. She wasn't just pleasuring me, she was worshiping me. She paused for a moment, her breath soft and steady, then slowly slipped out of the last of her clothing, revealing herself with quiet confidence. The air between us shimmered with anticipation as she guided me gently into her warmth, soft, fragrant and inviting like a blooming flower kissed by dusk. Our bodies met in a slow, deliberate rhythm, each movement steeped in passion. She settled over me, her hips rolling with graceful intensity, as if she were riding a wave that only we could feel. My senses blurred, stars burst behind closed eyes, and time seemed to dissolve into the heat of her touch. She moved with purpose, her body syncing with mine in a dance that felt both primal and tender. Every stride, every grind, was a declaration of desire. And I was utterly lost in her, held captive by the beauty of the moment and the depth of our connection. As I slowly withdrew, her body trembled with lingering warmth. Her skin flushed a deep radiant red. She lay there breathless and glistening, her back rising and falling in rhythm with the fading echoes of our passion. The sheets beneath us were damp with sweat and the remnants of our union, a testament to the intensity we had just shared. She turned slightly, her eyes heavy with satisfaction, and pulled me close with a gentle but deliberate embrace. Her arms wrapped around me, drawing me into her softness, until my face rested against the curve of her chest. I could hear the steady thrum of her heartbeat, still racing, still alive with the moment. "I love you," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet it carried the weight of something eternal. Chapter 5. A New Day and a New Reality. The intimate night with Rhian was a great distraction, one that made me briefly forget about the events of yesterday. When I woke, the morning sun was already streaming through the window, illuminating the room in a gentle, hazy light. Rhian was already awake, her presence a quiet comfort beside me. We got up, cleaned ourselves up, and dressed in a comfortable silence, a silent acknowledgement of the sanctuary we'd found in each other. Over a quiet breakfast, our conversation shifted back to school, a familiar and grounding topic. We went over our schedules, and it was Rhian who realized it first. "We don't have any lectures today," she said, her expression shifting to one of mild surprise. "Just our hospital duty this afternoon. From 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., I felt a pang of relief. A break from the lecture hall was exactly what I needed. Rhian finished her meal, gave me a quick, soft kiss, and got ready to leave. "I'm going to head back to my place and get some rest before changing into my uniform," she said. "I'll see you later at the hospital." After she left, the quiet of my home returned. The scent of her perfume still lingered, a faint reminder of the night before. I had the whole morning to myself, a rare luxury that was now tinged with the strange, new reality of the world. I sat alone, the silence no longer peaceful but heavy with the weight of the unknown. Chapter 6. The Calm Before the Storm. Walking into the hospital lobby, a wave of relief washed over me. I saw my team and classmates already gathered, chatting and laughing, a welcome sight that momentarily pushed away the anxieties I'd been carrying. Rhian was already there, and her familiar smile made me feel instantly at ease. I approached everyone and joined their laughter, waiting for someone to bring up the news from yesterday. But no one did. It was as if the news report had never happened. 10 minutes before our shift, we all took the elevator up to the 7th floor to meet with our clinical instructor, Miss Carrillo. She went over our tasks and assigned our roles for the day. To my surprise, I was designated as the acting charge nurse for the team. My teammates dispersed to begin their work, and Ms. Carrillo asked me to stay behind. My role for the day was to document their work, delegate tasks, and oversee the next case study we would be presenting. It was a light day at the hospital, and everyone seemed genuinely happy, a rare and welcome feeling. After our shift ended, we all took pictures together, and the energy was so high that someone suggested we go out for drinks and karaoke at a place called Antony's. Everyone agreed without hesitation. As we sang and drank like there was no tomorrow, I couldn't help but notice one of my classmates, Denise Gillendale. She was the campus crush, beauty and brains combined. I'd had a crush on her since the first day of school, but I never pursued it. The age gap felt too wide, and I assumed she wasn't interested or was already seeing someone else. The night went on, a blur of music, laughter, and drinks. We sang our hearts out and drank until we couldn't anymore. Little did we know, that day would be the last time we would all be together. The night ended, and we all went our separate ways, heading home under the fading glow of streetlights. The next day came, and I woke up with a pounding headache from the hangover. I fumbled for my phone, and the first thing I saw was a declaration from the president. All classes were suspended due to the increasing number of COVID-19 patients in suspected cases. The party was over. The silence that followed was deafening. Chapter 7. And so it begins. Days turned into a week, and the suspension of classes was just the first domino to fall. My phone, once a portal to shared jokes and group projects, was now an endless scroll of grim updates and unsettling news. The initial trickle of concern from the hospital had turned into a torrent of fear. There were more confirmed cases, more suspected cases, and the stories from the front lines were getting more and more dire. Then, the inevitable announcement came. The president, his face a somber mask on the television, declared a total lockdown. The city was to be placed under a strict quarantine. All public transportation would cease, non-essential businesses would close, and people were ordered to stay in their homes. The words hung in the air, final and absolute. The world outside, the one with friends and classes and karaoke nights, was gone. And so it begins. The streets, once a chaotic symphony of horns and human chatter, were eerily empty. I stepped outside, my feet making the only sound on the silent pavement. My strange, horrifying fantasy of a world where weeds grew on highways was actually happening. The silence was almost peaceful. For the first time in a long time, there was no traffic, no noise, no rush. It was like I owned the world, and for a selfish moment, I felt a sense of ease. A deep calm settled over me, a feeling of total, quiet solitude. But the relief was fleeting. My phone buzzed with another news alert, a new number for the mounting death toll. A constant, grim reminder that while the world outside was quiet, a silent war was raging, and a lot of people were dying at an alarming rate. The peace I felt was a cruel paradox. I looked up at the empty sky, the beautiful, cloudless day a stark contrast to the invisible threat. This was not the life I wanted for the people I loved. This serene, solitary world was a tomb, and for that selfish moment of peace, I felt an overwhelming sense of shame. And so it begins.